Hi, this instructional video is about absolute value equation, solving absolute value equations. Just like when you are solving an equation. So in this case, we're going to minus the 2 to both sides of the equation. So we go minus 2, minus 2. So on the left side, since this is an additive inverse, the 2 and the minus 2 cancels out. All you have remaining now is the absolute value of x plus 1. Is equal to 4 minus 2, so it's 2 on the right side. Now, since the absolute value is isolated, it's by itself. Now we can go ahead and break this apart. For example, if we did not know what was inside our absolute value symbol right here, you ask yourself, absolute value of what would be equal to 2? Well, the absolute value of 2 is definitely a 2. Or, absolute value of negative 2 can also be a 2. So there's 2 possible answers. And so, since 2 possible answers, this can be either 2 or a negative 2. We're going to take what's inside the absolute value and then say, whatever this is, in this case is x plus 1, it better be equal to 2. Or, that inside x plus 1 better be equal to negative 2. Because if you have 2 or a negative 2 inside, the absolute value of that will be equal to 2. That's why when you have an absolute value, there's 2 ways of solving it. What you're saying is the inside expression x plus 1 better be equal to 2, or it better be equal to negative 2. So solve this guy. So minus 1 to both sides of the equation. X is equal to 1. That is one of the possible answers. And you have to say or. Minus 1 to this side of the equation, you get x is equal to, well, negative 2 and negative 1. You have $2 in a bank negative, and you borrow 1 more, you owe the bank $3 total. So let's check. If you put a 1 in here, what's 1 plus 1? 2. And what's absolute value of 2? 2. That works. What if you put in negative 3? If you have negative 3, and you put in $1 in the bank, you will still owe negative 2. Negative 2 is the balance. However, what's the absolute value of negative 2? 2. So that works as well. I did the easy one. Why don't you try the spicy ones now? Go ahead. Alright. Now, by the way, I made a mistake here, so I didn't have a whiteout. So I just put a paper there. It's a minus. So you said, let's isolate the absolute value. Isolate the absolute value. To do that, we get rid of the 3 by adding 3. So as a result, minus 3 cancels out from the left side of the equation. So all you have remaining on the left side is then the absolute value of 2x minus the 8. And that equals what's on the right. 5 plus 3 is 8. Now that the absolute value has been isolated, the inside of the absolute value of 8 is 8. Absolute value of negative 8 can also equal to 8. So we want to take whatever's inside and say that 2x minus 8 inside better be equal to 8, or that 2x minus 8 inside better be equal to negative 8. So you solve this guy. So you add 8 to this one. It becomes 2x is equal to 16. And then you divide 2 to both sides of the equation. 2 is simplified to become a 1. X is equal to 8. Or, in this case, you add 8 to both sides again. Something unusual happens. Here, the 8's cancel. But here, they cancel as well. So 2x is equal to 0. You still have to solve for x. So you divide the coefficient 2 to both sides of the equation. So when you have a 0 on top of the fraction, the whole quotient becomes a 0. So is that right? Let's see. 2 times 8 is 16. 16 minus 8 is 8. So absolute value of 8 is equal to 8. Good. Now if you put a 0 in there, 2 times 0 is 0. And 0 minus 8 is negative 8. But absolute value of negative 8 is still 8. So they work out. And finally this one. This one was quite spicy, but you're still trying to isolate the absolute value. Get rid of everything else from the left side of the equation. So first, minus 3 to both sides of the equation. So you get 2 minus absolute value of 5x minus 4. The 3 and the minus 3 cancels out. Here, 16 minus 3 is 16. Now you get rid of the 2. That's minus 2 to both sides of the equation. So you get negative absolute value of 5x minus 4 is equal to 16 minus 2 is 14. Now there's a negative coefficient, even though you don't see it. It's a negative 1. And you have to still get rid of that negative 1. To do that, you could either multiply a negative 1 to both sides of the equation, or you could divide a negative 1 to both sides of the equation. When you do, the negative 1, invisible negative 1, cancels out the negative 1. They reduce, simplify to a positive 1. So now you have absolute value of 5x minus 4. On the right side, when you multiply or divide a positive with a negative, it becomes a negative. Now that the absolute value has been isolated, you could solve this two different ways. You could say, wait a minute. Didn't we just say each time you take an absolute value, whether it's positive or negative, they always come out to be positive? So, can an absolute value come out to be a negative? No. No can do. The absolute value of any value can never be a negative. So in this case, you say no solution. That was a trick.